Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. I see we have people from across the world joining us today, so I'd like to personally extend a thank you to those of you who have made it. We've got an important topic to discuss today. You hear it in the news, it's in the schools, you hear politicians and business leaders speak about it on a daily basis. And if you haven't guessed from the title of this webinar, that topic is gender diversity. But in this case, gender diversity and equality at business schools. Because while businesses are attempting to champion bridging the gap in terms of cultural, international, and gender diverse representation, it's really the business schools, the educators of tomorrow's business leaders who have a tremendous impact in shaping the future business landscape and its approach to gender diversity and equality. But how? How can business schools recruit and engage more female students and develop more of them into female leaders and CEOs, and likewise offer them the same opportunities as male counterparts? Well, we're lucky to have on board the current director of the ESCP Europe Executive MBA program, who leads European teams working on the programs across the ESCP's 5 campuses in Paris, London, Berlin, Turin, and Madrid. She's developed executive education programs across campuses as head of European coordination, and that's greatly enhanced diversity by fostering programs involving participants from a wide range of countries, backgrounds, and industries. She, in fact, created the first women's network within ESCP's Europe EMBA program and helped the student entrepreneur Lindsay Nefesh-Clark to win the AMBA Student of the Year Award in 2009. So it's my pleasure to welcome on board Inès Khedhir. Welcome, Inès.
Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome to everyone. So it's a pleasure for me to share what we've done and our thoughts on this very important topic. So
lovely, Inès. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before you start, I'll just let everyone know that this is a bit of an interactive webinar, so there will be several questions posed to you during this webinar. So do feel free in the comment section, in the chat section on the toolbar that you see, to just send in your questions or your opinions, and I will read them out loudly for Inès, and Inès will reply to those from her end. So just letting everyone know about that in the chat, and Inès, you can proceed onwards.
Thank you very much. Yes, I want this session to be interactive because I want it to be also a discussion so that we know what each other do and have tried, and so that we get input from everyone. So let me first start by asking you what is diversity for you? So if okay, I'm trying now to, okay, so sorry. I'm trying to, yeah. I know you see my screen, but it seems to be working. Yeah. So what is diversity? Usually when you see in the media or advertisements pictures showing diversity, what do you see? Well, you see the regular, let's say, very classical United Colors of Benetton kind of pictures with people from different colors, but all very happy, very smiley, quite young, looking friendly. But diversity is actually not only this. So may I ask you, what to you is diversity?
Fantastic. So let's see if people are putting in their answers right now. We've got a few coming up here. We've got gender, culture, religion,
yes.
Education, that's interesting, race, cognitive, gender again. Yeah, so it seems to be those are coming up quite often here.
Great. So yes, of course, as you said, diversity can also be, well, sexual orientation. It can be age. I mean, looking at just young people, Asian, African, etc., is not enough. It can also be physical appearance. People who are fat, slim, tall, short. It's also handicap, including people who are disabled is part of diversity. It can be social origins, so poor, rich people, including poor and rich people is part of diversity. And as some of you said, of course, it is religion and so much more. You gave several examples. So talking about diversity is not just talking about a beautiful image of people of different nationalities and origins. And we tend, even as business schools, like all the other companies, to only talk about, to show diversity with the kind of image I showed previously. But we should not forget that diversity is also all of this. So why, as business school, diversity as a general rule is all the differences we bring to the table. Why, as business schools, do we focus on diversity? Why is it important for us? So let's have some humor here. We do consider diversity sometimes because it's part of the rankings, and we, of course, know that. But not only, because I believe that as business schools, we do have a role and we do have a conscious and concerns regarding diversity. So why, may I ask you, why to you is diversity important? And I will ask for your answers.
Fantastic. All right, so let's wait a couple of seconds here for people to submit their answers. And okay, so we got the first one, lessens conflicts between groups, enriches opportunities, encourages inward reflection. Okay, that's actually a pretty interesting one because as speaking from my own personal experience and coming from having lived in multiple countries, I think that when you're exposed to many different cultures and ideas of thinking, you question your own, I think, your own background and cultural beliefs, and maybe adapt to new ones and bring on board new ideas. So that's a good one. Well, here's another one, increases cooperation to work on large-scale projects.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are so far the answers done, yeah.
Very good. So I have also tried to gather some of the interests that I've heard that we also share. So it includes, it includes several things I've written on my screen. I see in what I've written some of what you said about lessons, conflict, opportunities, encouraging adaptation, reflection, increasing cooperation in worldwide projects. So, of course, what do we do when we enhance diversity in our schools? We offer worldwide networking to our participants. We offer learning opportunities, as you said, because when you have to deal with someone who thinks very differently from you, you need to adapt. You need to assume that you're not always right, that there are other ways to solve problems. It enhances innovation and productivity, because when we all think the same, actually we do not create anything new. So diversity also allows that. It develops, of course, open-mindedness, thinking that someone who is different from you might also be right and might have a solution that you don't have. It also allows us have a larger range of talent and offer access to a larger range of talent to our participants. It offers perspective, it broadens perspectives. It offers a better understanding of the world, because when you see things from your own window and when you confront your ideas to someone who is living in another part of the world, of course, you can have a different view on what's happening. A richer life experience, you said it, and so much more. So basically, this is very important today for us as business school, to enhance diversity in our classes and the spirit that goes with it, apart from the rankings, of course. So how do we make diversity efficient? Is it enough to just add a number of nationalities in the group? Is it enough to just say we have this percentage of female and this percentage of people working in that industry? Well, it's more difficult than that. First of all, the first drawing that you see here is what we call discrimination. So there is a circle with privileged people, and out of this circle are all the ones we don't want in the circle. Of course, this is not what we want. But when we just talk about diversity, we might end with this second drawing, which is actually not optimal. Why? What wrong do you see in this second drawing?
Yeah, everybody, you can answer right now. I mean, I could tell right away what's wrong here.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's give the audience some seconds here to answer. Oh yeah, so here, diverse groups huddle away from the main group. Yeah, so it's basically that the diverse groups are it's promoting diversity, but instead they huddle together. So there's no true exchange between the different groups.
Exactly. So what do we do wrong when we do this kind of organization? Of course, we can say that we have a percentage of foreigners, of women, of everything, but actually we do not work with them. We do not learn from them, and we do not get the opportunity to enrich ourselves, grow with diversity. So which choice did some organizations, countries, whatever, do? So there is a first possibility, which is called assimilation. What does it mean? It means that we do integrate diverse people into the circle, but we want them to become like us. And what we usually observe in this kind of situation is that we lose the potential that diversity brings to a group, because finally we want all the ones who are different from us to end up thinking like us, behaving like us, and so we do not learn anything from them. So what is the optimal situation? The optimal situation is this one, the one when we include diverse people within the circle, within the group, but we mix them with the existing people. And this is what we call inclusion. So my point here is to say that diversity, okay, it's good, but it's not enough. Because if you practice diversity and you don't make sure that you work also on inclusion, you will not get the benefits of diversity. Please feel free to interrupt me or comment if you have any different opinion or...
There was actually a question just did come in. It was regarding the assimilation picture you showed. They asked if there is potential for reverse assimilation. And I guess what they're asking about that is, you know, yes, you assimilate another, let's say, culture, but maybe by assimilating, you change your own culture inadvertently or unconsciously.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, thank you. It's a very important point, because I only showed here one possibility of assimilation, but there is another possibility, which is what happens in some countries where you create ghettos and you only put a few existing people and you mix them with a majority of foreigners or diverse people, and it can not only be on nationalities, it can be on genders and so on, where the existing people actually lose what they also bring to the group. And this is why, well, this is my belief, but of course you can think differently. I believe that we need to really not erase what we are, either if we're inside this circle or out of the circle. It's a matter of number, and whenever there are too many of one kind, the ones that are different actually lose what they are. They tend to get assimilated to the biggest group, and they lose what they can bring to the group. So this is, to me, a risk when we do not pay attention to have balanced and inclusive practices and politics and policies. I'm saying policies not in terms of country, but even in organizations, ways to allow people exchange on what they are, what they think, what they do, and what they can do differently above all. I hope I am answering the question.
No, very interesting, very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's also in an organization, for example, when you have a team, you lead a team, saying to your team, please do disagree with me, is doing inclusion. Because when you are in a meeting and you just give the rules and you ask everyone to follow them, in one sense, of course, we all need rules, but in one sense, you miss what your team and the diversity of your team can bring. So next slide is now I would like, so I made a kind of general presentation about diversity, but our point is here to focus on gender balance, because diversity, as we saw at the very beginning of the presentation, can include many things, and we cannot in 1 hour talk about all the aspects of diversity. So let's talk here about gender balance. So why do we have a problem with gender balance? So let me just show you a few, again, statistics, and ask you, well, it will seem obvious, but ask you, what do you see wrong here? So if you take the ratio of male and female on Earth, basically you have about 106 male for 100 women, depending on the country, planet. Sometimes it's 101 for 100, but basically we have 51% of men who are born and 49% of women. Of course, this can differ according to the country where you are born, not because of natural statistics, but as you know, in some countries, there can be abortions according to the sex of the baby, but as a general rule, we stick to 51% and 49% of female. When we consider, and I'm talking here as a business school representative, when we consider undergraduate programs, what do we see? We see that we have more women going through studying in undergraduate programs. So this was, I took my figures in several studies, including one on Forbes, from 2017. So I don't think it has changed a lot. But basically, in many countries, we see that we have more women going to school until undergraduate programs. But then the problem is when we consider executive education programs, so the programs that you do after 30 years old, basically, what do we see? We see that we have 70% of male and 30% of women. It can be sometimes 20% of women. I don't know if this is what you observe in your own programs, but basically if you look at for example, the rankings, you can easily see that many executive programs have between 20, 30, and if it's very good, 40% of women, but we really have a lack of representation of women in executive education programs. So maybe can you just tell me if you agree with these figures, if you observe different things on your side?
Yep, so give the audience a little bit of time here to answer. Just to quickly speak about these figures, and we here at AMBA and BGA did every year we do a study and show what the gender balance is between males and females, especially executive education programs such as MBAs. This pretty much reflects exactly what we usually see, though we're seeing more of an uptake for females. So it's getting closer to a 60-40 balance now, while 70-30 has been more common. So answers coming in saying yes, they agree with these numbers. It's roughly the same. 60-40, pushing for 50-50. So that seems to be exactly what people are saying.
Okay, great. So we can now wonder what happened. Why at the age of 18 years old, we have as many or even more female students as male, but when it comes to the 30s and 40s, this number drops. So do you have ideas of the reasons why we have this drop in the percentage of female participants?
Yep, let's see what our audience comes up with. Let's see, lack of opportunities, children, social engineering, differing interests among the sexes, life priorities, job discrimination, cultural differences. Let's see here, anything else?
Okay.
Children comes up again. Those seem to be the ones that come up so far.
Okay, so yes, of course, everything you said is also what we have observed. So of course, the 30s and 40s are this is the age when women think that they have to make a choice between family and professional life, and I insist on think because, again, this depends on the way they see things, the social pressure, and so on. So yes, the social and cultural challenges. So not only the social pressure from the family that expects women to have children by the 30s, but also the social environment in countries where there is no child care, for example. This is the case in several countries, like in Germany, for example. I remember we had a very interesting discussion where a woman who would give the privilege to her career was seen as a bad mother. So a woman has to stop working when her child is young, because otherwise she's seen as a woman who only thinks of her career, and it's very difficult for a woman to just resist to the social pressure. A lot of women also think that if there is a choice to make between their career and their partner's career, well, they do give the priority to the partner's career. If he needs to move or to get a better job, they just drop their job and follow the man. You said it's the lack of opportunities within companies because, yes, we sometimes for some positions do not think of women, or women think that the organization will not think of her. Something we observe very, very, very often, the lack of self-confidence. I don't know for you, but we see a lot of very brilliant candidates who come to us and who are not sure that they would fit, or that they are good enough, or that they have the right background. Whereas we see a lot of men coming with a lot of self-confidence, thinking that they are the right candidate, they can do it. And for sure, women show more doubts when it comes to applying to these kind of programs. I think it's the same as when they apply for a job. Usually when you have a job description and a man, let's say, has the 50% of the job description right, he thinks he can do it. If a woman has 80% of the job description, corresponds to 80% of the job description, she will say, oh yes, but maybe I will not be taken because I missed 20% of the job description. And we often observe this even in our candidates. There is also, and this is what they say, a lack of role models. So we have more and more now, and this is very good news. But we have not seen many female successful leaders who, at the same time, do not sacrifice their personal life or who don't act mannish. So, like there is tools that usually are used by men, which are the kind of behavior that is very that shows authority and, well, you know, attributes that we usually give to men. So a lot of women think that to succeed they have to act like men, otherwise they will not reach the top of the pyramid. Also, something we have observed, actually the percentage of women in executive education programs reflects figures of company boards, because usually in boards you have 20 to 30% of women, and this is, you can say, is quite logical when it comes to looking at who is in MBA and executive MBA programs compared to who is in boards, and this also goes with the lack of opportunities within the company. Another thing we have observed is that actually in the executive MBAs we usually have a lot of engineers, people working in finance, in oil and gas industry, and these people are more male, include more male. So if we have participants from these kind of industries, naturally we will have more male than women, than female. So to show you some figures about this, it was a study that made by LinkedIn. If you consider the gender balance according to industries and positions, so if you first look at the first on the left, the first figures on the left, it includes all kind of employees. And if you look at it, you can see that in healthcare, education, non-profit, legal, public administration, and media, you have at least as many women as men, or even more women than men. But if you look at the figures that are on the right of the screen, where we consider the managerial positions, then there is no industry where you have more women, even the industries where women are more represented. I don't know if you have some comments about these figures, but, well, this is quite obvious that even, first of all, we do have people working in industries as the ones that are on the bottom of the list, so finance, software, IT, etc., who come to executive MBA. So we naturally have more men because they are more represented in these industries. But even when we have people, and we do have some from healthcare and legal, non-profit organization and so on, we do have more men because men are actually the ones that occupy the managerial and high positions. Do you have any comments on these figures, either because you agree or disagree?
Give the audience a few minutes here, or seconds, I would say. But these are very interesting because I mean, clearly you can see here, especially in the both healthcare and education, what a swath it is in terms of females being mostly in those positions, and then when you come to the leadership positions, that completely changes. So it's quite interesting, and especially in the now nonprofit seems to be a bit closer to a 50-50.
Yes.
Do you by any chance know why that is?
So no, it's a very good question. I don't know exactly, according to studies, why is that so, but from what I observe, I do observe that in non-profit organizations, the ones, for example, that we've had as students, the non-profit organizations do give a very important place to women, maybe because in the nature of non-profit organizations, then they often tend to work for the human rights of women, microcredits for women, and so on. So maybe they are more sensitive to having women leaders in the organization to represent the actions that they do. But this is my thoughts, and I have not got deeper in studies, but I will do so, because you're right, it's very interesting to observe that.
Absolutely. But yeah, it seems from the audience, most of them are saying that this is something they have seen before and are aware of as a problem in terms of the gap between the industry kind of mix and then the leadership mix.
Okay, good. So I'm not. I'm aligned with most of the colleagues, so that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So what can we do with this? Because once we observe all this, we all observe the same, and we say, okay, but in this very not balanced world, what is our role and what we can do? So I truly believe that business schools have a very important role to play in there, because we have the power to train female leaders when they come to the programs, create role models to inspire the ones who are not yet in the program, to encourage mentorship, to really fight against the lack of confidence of women thinking that they cannot do such a program. And very importantly, our role is also to raise awareness among our male participants. And this is very important, because when we tend to think of diversity, gender balance, we often think of doing things with women, encouraging women, talking to women, doing things with women. But actually, the society is made also of men. And if we do not have male who are aware of these unbalanced world and of the opportunities to have more women in their organization, and above all in managerial positions in their organization, then we won't do anything. We cannot work only on the female participants part, but it's very important to work also on the male participants part. And what we observe, and we're quite happy about this, actually we have a lot of male participants who are interested in what we are doing for our female participants. They want to take part in it, and they want to do something even when they are back in their companies. And a lot of women actually tell us that the ones who have promoted them are often male. So we must not forget to also work on our male participants to develop the gender balance within companies and programs. So now maybe just to give you some insights on what we have done at ESCP Europe, and I will also ask you what you have done in your companies, because maybe it's the same and maybe you have had other ideas. So as you heard at the beginning of the presentation, I have been working in the Executive MBA for a while, and I have been very, very sensitive to the issue of gender balance. And we thought, by hearing our female participants and our audience, we came to the conclusion of we answered ourselves, who better than a woman who's gone through the Executive MBA experience can convince another woman she can do it. Basically, when we as school talk to participants or candidates saying, yeah, of course, we do have women, yes, it's challenging, but you can do it, we appear as people who just want candidates. But when women who have gone through our programs and can say, this is the way I lived it, and this is the way I overcame the challenges. Some of them had babies during the MBA, some of them don't have families, but have other challenges in their own companies. So we really observed that candidates and female as a general rule get convinced when they hear other stories coming from other current participants and alumni. So we decided something quite simple when you see it. We decided to create the women's group network. So this is a kind of a network that exists in several companies, organizations. So it was a very simple idea, but such an idea didn't come to our mind before 2009. So what did we do in this women's network? So how did we start the story? So back in 2009, we had a candidate, a participant called Lindsay Nefesh-Clark. She used to work on a project within the EMBA on a platform to help women raise microcredits in developing countries. She was followed by a professor. She was already working in NGOs, and she is the candidate that we presented for the AMBA Student of the Year award, and she won the AMBA Student of the Year award. And she came to us to say, look, I don't want this to be just an award for 1 year. We have to do something about it, above all because I feel concerned by gender balance. I think we can do something. We will have some advertisements, so let's make the most of it. And she said, you have to create a women's network so that we can talk to each other. So sorry, the P is missing, but it's women's group. So we started very simply at ESCP Europe. We have 5 campuses. So we organized meetings on each campuses, and these meetings gathered current participants, alumni that are in the country, and prospects and candidates. So women who were wondering, should I do an executive MBA? Is it for me? Is it the right moment, etc. So we did it in Berlin, London, Madrid, Turin, and Paris. And that's why I told you I got insights when we were in Berlin of the Berlin environment for female leaders. We had also some very interesting discussions in Madrid because some bias are still very active for women, and we had there a woman working in the tobacco industry. So these are examples of topics we have discussed. So is positive, that not everyone thinks positive discrimination is a solution. So it was very interesting to discuss. The education of women since the very start. So I showed you previously that for undergraduate programs, we do have women going to school. Our women promoting female evolution, it was a very interesting topic because a lot of women that we saw told us that the ones who promoted them are male, and when they met some women, they felt more in competition with them and not in a mind spirit of mentorship and networking. So we did this since 2009. It's been going on, but it was just meetings with inspiring talks. And we thought maybe we'd have to do something more. So in 2013, we launched a scholarship for female leaders. So these all of these might be things you have done, but I'm just doing a kind of overview of things we've done. What we observed for the scholarship for female leaders is that, of course, a lot of women did apply for the scholarship, but we do not feel that we've gained more women thanks to these scholarships. So what our feeling is that the ones who were already interested in the program did apply to the scholarship, but we don't feel that we reached females that were not at first going to apply to the program. So other attempts that we've done, and maybe you have done some of it also. So we've tried to create mentoring, meaning female mentoring other women participants. They usually do it when they are, well, when they are participants, they want to be mentored. When they are young alumni, so when they graduated the previous year, they do mentor new participants, but after 3-4 years, usually they get caught by everyday life and they don't have time anymore to do it. So it's a bit difficult to do it on a long-term basis. And I'm on a very transparent mode. I'm sharing here with you what we've done, what has worked, and what was difficult to maintain. We have created a blog, but again, the one who was in charge left, so it was not, there was not a continuation in the participation of women in this blog. We have really insisted on the flexibility of our program because, as I told you, we have had women who got pregnant, but not only, some of them changed jobs and so on, and it's the case for men, of course, also. So we have really tried to adapt the schedule as much as possible to help them end their program and graduate. We have created some dedicated coaching. So we have some coaches specialized in accompanying women leaders. We are trying, because it's not finished, to increase professors' awareness. It seems very obvious when I talk about it, because when you talk to several professors saying we need gender balance, everyone agrees. But sometimes just in the way the courses are made, or in small reflections, or in small sentences, a lot of participants and more female participants do come to us saying this was disrespectful towards women. So we do also have to develop and change mentalities on what is acceptable and what is not for female participants. We have created a specific course on gender balance. The first version was dedicated to women, and as I told you, we really realized that we should not just target women, but also male, to make them aware of the importance of gender balance in companies. So we have opened this, we have changed a bit this elective course so that male can feel also concerned with it. We have every 8th of March tried to organize events on International Women's Day. We have consulting projects that are part of the MBA. We have really supported the consulting projects dealing with female empowerment. And we have lately done a marketing campaign. And if we have some time at the end, because we're coming to the end, I will show you, it's a 1-minute video showing the path of a woman participant. We have also really made sure to have women on our flyers, brochures, and for example, we have had a candidate saying, I came to you because I thought that a school that chooses to have only one person on the brochure and this person is a woman, well, I felt that I would feel I would share the values of this business school. So it's very simple, but these are things that seem to work. So the difficulties we have met and we are still meeting. So for example, when we organize the events, we have, of course, constraints due to the place where our alumni and participants live. So if we do not do it during a module, a lot of women do not come, actually. It's difficult, as I told you, to maintain their involvement after graduation. Usually women feel that they need advice and support from alumni or from their peers during their studies, but then it's not that they don't want, they do want, and they tell us that they want, but usually they have other priorities after graduation. We need to ensure actions follow up. So for example, I told you that we had a lot of meetings, but actually if we do not impulse these meetings, we see that they do not do it by themselves. They did not take the network as their own. They still wait for actions coming from us. So difficulty to find committed ambassadors. So again, when they are in the program, they do like to share their experiences, but once they are back in the company, we would like them to keep on developing female empowerment within the company. We need to enhance visibility, so it's to have, again, to create role models, and this is what we try to do in our advertisements, but it's not always easy. We need to fight against unconscious bias, even coming from women, because some women do think that they should not take a woman for that position because she will be too weak or too sensitive, and so on. So we also need to fight against unconscious bias within female participants. We have to remain fair, and this is something that was raised by male, saying, well, for example, for the scholarships, we do offer scholarships to women and not to men, so we know why we're doing this, but, well, male do not always understand. For example, we had during a master class, a student saying, well, do I have to understand that you take all women, all female candidates that apply to your program? Of course not. But we have to be very, very careful not to give this image that we take women whatever, and we require the same level of commitment and professionalism and qualifications in women and men. This seems obvious to us, but not always to them. And we have to work on all layers of organizations, because as we have seen previously, we have a lot of female in middle management positions, but they tend to reach the glass ceiling, as they said. So we have to not only target these middle managers, but we do have to target and push and do things too, so that they spread the word within the organization and have the means to promote highly qualified female peers. This was my last slide, and I would like, now to thank you and to ask you about your own, if we have a few minutes left, about your own experience on what you've done, what has worked or not.
Thank you so much for that, Inès. Yes, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but if we have a couple of questions that do come in, or any comments or anything like that, now's the time to submit those. Just something from my own end, because I noticed when you were presenting that one of the biggest problems among females was the self-confidence bit. Why is that? Is it a societal reason here, or is it family, or is it just what's causing this self-confidence? Because, you know, obviously with males, not all males, because again we're generalizing here, but a lot of males tend to have this stronger kind of self-confidence or an ego going on. So why do we see these differences?
Well, I will give you a very simple example. When we raise little girls and when we raise little boys, we usually tell to the boys, "Go, you're the best. You did it. You're strong." And we tend to, and we usually compliment the girls when they are polite, they are quiet, they are nice, they have a beautiful dress. So we never push our girls, usually I say, because again, it's I'm generalizing here, but since the very, very beginning of the woman's life, we do not push her to think that she's strong, she's intelligent, she deserves it, that she has no limits to put to herself. Usually we will say, be careful, you're going to be hurt, it's too heavy, it's too far, you're going to be tired, and so on. So this comes at the very beginning of someone's life, and parents, when they do that, they don't think that they are doing something wrong, of course, but actually when all your life you are told that maybe it's not for you, that you have to be careful, that you have to be slow and to be quiet and so on, it does not give you the same character as when people push you.
Yeah, very interesting. And especially in those first 7 years of someone's life, that's when a lot of this social engineering happens, actually. So it's quite interesting. Now, there are a couple of questions. I'll only pick two, and there's quite a few here, but one of them is, what's your general assessment of how the business school industry is promoting gender diversity in today's society? Is it good, bad? What are your thoughts?
I feel that today everyone shows that they are concerned by the topic. So no one today will tell you, I don't care about diversity, this is not for me. But it's a bit like climate change. Everyone will tell you, oh, climate change is very important. But on a concrete basis, what do they do? What do we do? It's like when we talk about diversity, well, we ensure that we did our part of the job by including different nationalities in the group. But do we really try to make them work together? Do we really want them to confront their ideas? Do we really push them to go and work with the ones who are different from them? And this is where I talk about inclusion. Usually, I don't know if you have the same observation, but when you're in a dinner or a group and a lot of couples are here, you see that naturally some male will go at one side of the table and women will go on the other side, or they will help the one who is inviting the group in the kitchen. So naturally we tend to we work on diversity but not work on inclusion, and this is to me what is very important today. So it's good to at least have people saying diversity is important, we try to work on diversity, but it's not enough. We really have to work on inclusion. Having male doing teams where they need to include women is important, not just for the figures, but because we need to convince them that they will benefit from this difference. the same way they will benefit from including people coming from another country.
Absolutely. I'll just pick one last question before we finish. Here, this is quite interesting. Studies have shown that females perform much better in primary and high schools education than males. Is this true for business schools as well? And if so, why aren't females getting the best jobs and salaries?
Well, this is a very, very good question. Regarding the results, I would say usually in our program, we do not, like in undergraduate programs, we do not raise competition between students, so we do not make a ranking of the best grades and so on. We encourage teamwork, we encourage people to think and work together. So I cannot tell you, I do not have figures to tell you that our female participants get better results, but I can tell you that they do bring something that is precious to the group, and we do have feedback on this sense. And why companies do not see that? Well, because I would say unconscious bias. So people tend not to look at the results. People tend to just look at the common ideas about what a woman is. So, for example, if she leads a team, she will not be pushy enough. She will put too many feelings in the way she manages her team, so she will not fire the ones who need to be fired. She will not, or she will get pregnant also. This is very, a very natural process, but still very unfair. A lot of companies and HR, they will not write it, but they do say that they try to avoid giving important positions to female aged 30 to 35, because this is the moment when they will probably want a child and they will leave the company. So these are things we really need to fight against, and some societies, some countries have, for example, put some laws pushing the male to take the maternity leave, well, paternity leave, because again, when a man takes his paternity leave in a country when he's not obliged to, well, his colleagues and his HR department will think it's weird. Why are you doing this? I mean, just leave your wife do it. So the social pressure is also on men trying to help women get the right place. So it's a long process. I do feel that we are on the right pace and we are on the right development, but it's taking time. But I'm now quite confident.
Wonderful. And sorry to everyone else for your questions that we couldn't get to them. You know, that I know we had quite a few that came in, but what you can do is always contact Inès right after. We have a link to your LinkedIn profile, Inès, so people can reach you directly there. But thank you so much for coming on board today and really presenting on a fantastic and interesting topic like this today. Just as a quick heads up for everyone still on, our next webinar will be using virtual reality technology in the business school classroom, the whys and how, and this will be held on the 29th of May at 12 o'clock London time. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for coming on board, and we'll see you again at the next BGA webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for your participation and very relevant questions. Thank you very much.